வானம் பார்த்து கிடந்தேனே மழையாய் வந்து விழுந்தாயே வழி துணையே வழி
தோனிக்கு நிறைய நீசிங்கம் தான் போட ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. விராட் கோலி said that it was his favorite song and then அவருக்கு நிறைய யூஸ் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. நீங்க யாருக்கு அதை ட்ரிபியூட்டா கொடுப்பீங்க?
ARS. Like he's like my hero. Every video I post up, there's at least 5 comments where it says, "Bro thinks he's Sid." Bro, it's a whole thing. I was genuinely kind of confused. Like, no, I'm definitely me. I promise you.
You were the first South Indian to go there and perform there. In the representation, நீங்க எப்படி பாக்குறீங்க?
I forced myself not to think about like, I wonder if this will do well. Madurai is a great example. I actually went into that recording not feeling like recording at all that day.
Oh, really?
I was having like a shitty day. I also kind of consciously decided I'm not going to sing 50 songs in a year or something like that. Maybe I'll sing 5 to 10 instead. Especially the song in Pisasa 2, working with Mishkin Saran, that was super fun. You know, and just like that interaction with him, he's just like bustling with energy and ideas, and he's so brilliant.
நீங்க இண்டிபெண்டன்ட் ஆர்டிஸ்ட் பத்தி பேசியிருந்தீங்க. Who's your favorite currently at this point?
I like Asal a lot. Nabs 47. His stuff's Paldabba.
நீங்க ஒரு கான்சர்ட்ல உட்கார்ந்து பாடிட்டு இருக்கீங்க. எல்லாரும் ஹனுமான் சாலிசா பாடிட்டு இருந்தாங்க நீங்க பாடும்போது, and you were so moved by it.
Yeah, I mean, like people were singing along. I just started crying. I couldn't hold it back. I don't even. When those moments happen, it's like you don't know. It just hits you. I think for me, I have nothing against AI. I think if it's used as a tool. And I think people think I'm generally pretty serious, and that's how it appeared in my social media for the most part. That I'm like, hey, thinking about life all the time or whatever. People get surprised though. The fans are like, "Are you sure this is you? Is someone hacked your account?" Like, no, this is what me and my friends are talking about most of the time.
ஹாய், ஹலோ அண்ட் வெல்கம் டு சினிமா எக்ஸ்பிரஸ். என் பேர் நாராயணி. இன்னைக்கு நம்ம கூட ரொம்ப ஸ்பெஷலான ஒரு கெஸ்ட் இருக்காங்க. த வெரி versatile சிங்கர் அண்ட் கம்போசர் Sid Sriram. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
It's so nice to see you back here. And ரொம்ப இவென்ட்ஃபுல்லான ரொம்ப 2 years உங்களுக்கு இருந்தது. ஏப்ரல் 2024 உங்களுக்கு கொச்சலா கான்சர்ட் இருந்தது. நீங்கள் இங்கே வந்துட்டு சோல் ரிலீஸ் ஆச்சு, அண்ட் தென் சிவனா ரிலீஸ் ஆச்சு. லாட் ஆஃப் நியூ திங்ஸ் ஹவ் பீன் ஹேப்பனிங். இந்த எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் எப்படி இருக்கு?
It's been great. I feel like I've been doing this professionally now for like 13 years, and to get to reinvent myself every few years and to kind of have these new pursuits creatively that I get to dive into, I think has really, one, kept me young, and 2, it's kept me excited about like new frontiers to explore and new horizons. Coachella last year was really magical, and it felt like a personal, like a great personal milestone. And this year it's been about, you know, making my own work, putting that out, sharing my vision and my perspective and my sound more deeply with the world around me, and it's been really fun. I feel like I'm at like the beginning of this new phase of what I'm going to be doing for what probably the next 5 years or whatever, and that's really exciting. So it's been busy and lots of movement, but it's also been super fun, and yeah, just so many new ideas and lots of inspiration.
It's amazing to hear. ஸோ இந்த ஒரு எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்க்கும் வரலாம். ஃபஸ்ட்டு சொல் பார்த்தேன், ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது. ரொம்ப எக்லெக்டிக் மிக்ஸ் ஆஃப் வெஸ்டர்ன் அண்ட் கர்நாடிக் பீட்ஸ் இருந்தது. ஒரு விதத்தில் ரொம்ப ஃப்ரீ ஸ்பிரிட்டடாக இருந்தது, ரொம்ப டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டாக இருந்தது. பட் அதே சமயத்தில் ரொம்ப ரூட்டடாகவும் நம்மளுக்கு பிடிச்ச மாதிரியும் நிறைய விஷயங்கள் நிறைய இருந்தது. ஏதோ நம்மளுக்குள்ளே இருக்கிற அந்த ரூட்ஸ் இன்னும் அப்படியே உள்ளே இருக்கிற மாதிரி இருந்தது. அஃப்கோர்ஸ் அந்த ட்ரீ சிம்பாலிசம் இதெல்லாம் நிறையவே இருந்தது. யா, ஸோ எக்ஸாக்டாக நீங்கள் அதை பண்ணும்போது உங்கள் மைண்ட் செட் என்னவா இருந்தது?
So when I started making that song, it was now about like a year and a half ago. Last year fully, I was touring for most of the year, especially the first half of the year. So we toured North America, Europe, did some shows here in Southeast Asia and in India, and then we did Coachella. So it was just like so much movement all over the place. And finally, after all that kind of settled, I went back to my parents' house where I grew up, which is in Fremont, California, which is like close to San Francisco. And why are you laughing?
No.
It's a place that has a lot of Indian people, a lot of South Indian people. But yeah, so I went back there, and I just, for the first time in like many months or maybe even a year, got time just to sit in silence and not be inundated with information and constant movement. So the beginnings of that song were born out of just me kind of being at home and being bored, and allowing myself to let my mind drift again, which I hadn't had the time to do for a while. And really beautifully, when I let my mind drift and I kind of got back in touch with myself, um, what I came upon was just this feeling of real deep joy. And soul is a product of that emotional space of, when you tap back in with yourself and kind of have those conversations with yourself and reflect. Sometimes your emotions can go any way, but in this moment, in that moment rather, it was just feelings of deep joy, gratitude, and that's what was the seed for soul. It started with the opening swaram that the song starts with, and then from there just kind of, I just sat in that room for like 5-6 hours that evening and just dove into that world and kind of started building and constructing what it would ultimately be. And it's been so much fun over the last year to evolve the song and really bring together like the Western drum patterns with the ghatam, melodically, just kind of really find a melody that feels like it simultaneously exists as an Indian melody and a Western melody, and make a visual for it that feels like it really, for the first time, at least for me, I was able to make a video that felt like it was like a direct reflection of what the song is. So all of this, personally, has been such a fun experience. And I'm a believer in like the process of creating something should be the gift.
Correct.
And this was definitely a testament to that. And then once we got to share it with the world now about like a week ago, and it's been really cool just to see the response.
It's so nice. The response has been just brilliant. So congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
So ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக இருந்தது நீங்கள் ஒரு விஷயம் சொன்னது. ரொம்ப சைலன்ஸில் உட்காந்துருந்தேன் அப்படின்னு சொன்னீங்க. நிறைய செல்ஃப் ரிஃப்ளெக்ஷன் பண்ண வேண்டியிருந்தது. இந்த சைலன்ஸ் வந்து நீங்கள் இன்னொரு இடத்துலையும் சொல்லியிருந்தீங்க. கொச்சலா போகும்போது பாடிட்டு இருக்கும்போது க்ரௌட் ஃபுல்லாக அப்படியே சைலண்ட் ஆயிருச்சு அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. அந்த மொமெண்ட்டில் என்ன நினச்சிட்டு இருந்தீங்க? அந்த சைலன்ஸ் நீங்கள் எப்படி இன்டர்பிரேட் பண்ணீங்க?
அந்த மொமெண்ட்டில் நான் ஒன்றுமே நினைக்கல. Like when those things happen, I feel like, rather, when I, like, the way I've really refined my approach to going on stage, the thing that I value more than anything else is completely making my mind blank and being just hyper present in the moment, not thinking about anything, not judging anything, barely even being able to kind of like take in my surroundings in those points in time. And I think that moment at Coachella, when I sang Sivanarmanam, which is a Tirpugar, and it was to a primarily non-Indian audience, like 90% non-Indian, I was like tapped into a certain energy of just like, I felt like I was elsewhere. And that normally happens when I'm on stage, and it feels like I'm just like an empty vessel that's like channeling something. Yeah, for sure. And I didn't even realize what the response was from the audience in the moment. And then once I got off stage and we were driving to the airport actually from the festival after we were done, and a friend sent me the clip of that specific moment. And yeah, you see the audience just go, like there's like a hush that settles across the whole audience. And they definitely did not know what Carnatic music was. They didn't know Tamil. They didn't have context for it. But this piece that is so special to me still translated and cut through and had this impact on them in a really special way. So when I saw that and I realized that this was the impact that it had, it was one, I felt like deep gratitude.
Okay.
And then two, I feel like I've had this hypothesis in my head, or like this idea that if I do what I'm supposed to do the right way, and I really kind of take the roots of who I am and take that across the world, it could really kind of shift things in people that listen to it. And it felt, that moment and looking back at that moment really felt like, oh, I'm doing the thing that I set out to do. And before that, it's been a bit of like an abstract like idea in my head, like this is what I want to achieve. I want to take Carnatic music or interpretations of Carnatic music and the core of who I am and just spread that across the world, because I really firmly and truly believe in where I come from. And yeah, to see that happen and see that silence just kind of settle across the whole space, it was just a moment of great affirmation that, okay, I'm doing justice to the gift I was given and this vision that I've had for a long time now.
Nice. Because usually Indian concerts வந்து ரொம்ப loudness இருக்கும், cheer இருக்கும், applause இருக்கும். There are these lots of different sounds.
Sure.
And then a lot of people can't handle silence.
Sure.
Silence யாரும் handle பண்ண முடியாது. But
Sure.
it's very nice to hear that you were able to pull yourself in and you were being in present?
I think when it happens like that, like collectively, um, yeah, sometimes like it's almost like the most magical feeling because you know that everyone that's there is like right there with you. They don't like, and I could see what had happened. People were kind of just like astonished, like, what is this sound? What is this energy? And they weren't fully able to kind of like wrap their intellectual minds around what was happening, but it definitely did something to their spirit. And I think that was what was like so special to me is like when that silence really what they say, like the space was pregnant with silence, you know, like that phrase is used. You could tell that everyone was feeling something in that moment. And yeah, it can be very uncomfortable sometimes. And for an artist on stage, you don't necessarily always know what to do with that. But I think now that I've been doing it for a while, I knew the value that moment held for sure.
ஏன்னா என்ட்ரோபியா இருக்கட்டும், சித்தார்த்தா இருக்கட்டும், எல்லா ஆல்பம்ஸ்லேயும் வந்து ஒரு ரொம்ப டிஃப்ரெண்ட் மிக்ஸ் ஆஃப் R&B ப்ளஸ் கர்நாடிக் மியூசிக் இருந்தது. அண்ட் யூ ஆல்சோ ஸ்போக்கன் a lot about how Carnatic means a lot to you. So what drew you in specifically to mix all of these different genres? இதை வந்து நம்ம வேர்ல்டு காமிக்கணுன்றது எந்த டைமில் உங்களை நட்ச் பண்ணுச்சு?
I think like the seeds of the ideas have been with me since I was quite young. I started singing when I was 3 and then I picked up like R&B and all that stuff around like when I was 8. And I think from that moment, once I started immersing myself, I've always been immersed in Carnatic music, but once I started immersing in these other forms, very naturally, as a mechanism to try to understand myself better, I started thinking about like what would happen if these things kind of coexisted or were in conversation with each other. And the idea was there in the back of my brain since I was young, and it evolved within me over the years, and I never really kind of like tested the idea until I was in college. Around like 2008, I started studying at Berklee College of Music, and just being in an environment that was filled with creatives and musicians and people who were just like obsessed with music the same way I was, that really encouraged me to sit in those practice rooms and start trying things out. And I call it just like throwing sonic paint on the wall and seeing what sticks. So the initial ideas or like the actual test of the ideas were then, and it's been a slow process over from then to now, really trying different things out. And first, a lot of it sounded very elementary and just like not that good. First draft vibes, you know, and then, but I was always like, I don't think I was even like committed to this idea. Or like I wasn't like I have to do this. My natural creative, just like momentum and inclination, and like the need to understand oneself and like existentially figure out what my place in the universe was and all that, all drew me towards this journey of having to at first feel like I was grappling between these different worlds, and then ultimately getting me to the point of not having to silo all these different parts of who I was, but realizing that it's just like one very messy kaleidoscopic like beautiful kind of lived experience, and the music just has to be a direct reflection of that. And I think to me the most important thing artistically and musically is just being honest, or even just as a human being, like in conversation too. Like honesty, I think, should be like the core foundation that everyone operates upon. And music for me is just a direct extension of self. So as I was understanding myself, as I was going through identity crisis, as I was making sense of who I was, the music was just in parallel reflecting the same journey. And because I am this person that holds multiple identities within myself, the music had to be a representation of that. It's been really beautiful. Like at first when I started it, I was just so much more angsty, and I was like 18 years old and, you know, just like kind of like angry at the world in certain ways. And then you go through life and you start making peace with different aspects of the world and yourself. And it's really been beautiful to watch the music. Like Siddharth, that album felt so much more, making it was much more effortless than Entropy. And when I listen back to it, there's a lot more quiet, just like peace within the music, where there's not as much of this like push and pull. Rather, everything is swimming together in the same current. And that's really exciting because I think that's led me to where I'm at right now in terms of my journey.
Super.
Yeah.
எல்லாருக்குமே உங்களோட சினிமா கரியர் பற்றி தெரியும், பட் கம்போசிங் கரியர் பற்றி நிறைய பேருக்கு தெரியாது, அஃப்கோர்ஸ் அப்பார்ட் ஃப்ரம் யுவர் ஆல்பம்ஸ் அஃப்கோர்ஸ். ஸோ இந்த சித் ஸ்ரீராம் as a singer, இந்த சித் ஸ்ரீராம் as a composer, நீங்கள் இதை எப்படி பார்க்குறீங்க? இந்த ரெண்டு சைடையும் நீங்கள் எப்படி பார்க்குறீங்க?
Yeah, I think Sid Sriram as a singer, the way I kind of uh, understand what my role is in that context is I feel like I'm an instrument, and my kind of job or the purpose that I'm supposed to fulfill in that context is to go into the studio and fully empty myself, be an instrument that the music director, that the director and the lyricist can really kind of envision, because there's a reason that they've called me for a certain
Correct.
song. So I become malleable to their vision, and I give myself to their vision. And in the process of that, what's super exciting is I also take in so much new information that I necessarily wouldn't have thought of otherwise, because this is someone else's composition, their very nuanced perspective that they're bringing to the table, and I get to take that, internalize it, make it my own, and then vocalize it. And it's a really gratifying process in that way. And over the years, I think attribute a lot of the refining of my understanding of different genres and being able to vocalize those genres. I attribute that to my playback singing career, because I've been able to go into these different rooms, these different songs, these different sonic spaces and genres, and really kind of like subsume them into my own subconscious. In terms of me as a composer, I'm building my own universes, and it's a completely different process. The source point is still the same in terms of like honest expression, but I get to, like, the universe that's created, the whole world that is created is all based on inspiration points that are within myself, the way I view the world, the way I filter in information and put it back out. So whereas one, I'm a component in the creative process.
Okay.
When I'm a playback singer, when I'm a composer, I am the process. And I think that's like the way I differentiate between the two kind of approaches or processes. Yeah.
பட் வானம் கொட்டட்டும்ல உங்களோட மியூசிக் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது. அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து உங்களுக்கு ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டிஸ் வரலையா, ஒரு நீங்க தேடி போலையா, ஒரு ப்ரையாரிட்டிஸ் சேஞ்ச் ஆயிடுச்சா, என்ன மாதிரி ஆச்சு?
Yeah, I think after Vanam Kottatum, which was super fun for me to do, specifically getting to interact with Mani sir as much as I did through that process was super magical. And I learned, like, I was just talking about it the other day, but my learning curve was like super steep. I learned so much over that 7-8 months.
So nice.
And I'm very proud of that album. I went back and listened to it like a couple months ago, and I hadn't listened to it in a long time. I was like, oh, good job, you know? Since that, I haven't been as drawn to take on film projects, because it's an all-consuming thing. Like, during that time of, like, you're immersed in that world of a film for, let's say, 7-8 months. And I was able to do other stuff during that time where I was singing songs for others. Like, some of my biggest hits actually were recorded around then, with like Sama Javaragamana Hapundan, Yenene Pirindai, Unananechu with Raja Sir. But still, like, my whole kind of focus, mind space was all kind of obsessing over this thing. And I'm not sure I'm ready to do that again.
Okay.
I still have so much more of my original work.
Right.
And that, because again, I guess, like, in the context of composing for a film, I'm not an instrument in the way I would be when I'm just singing a song. But when you're composing for a film, you're still, the compass is still set by the vision for the movie, for the film, the context, the emotional spaces that one has to kind of hit are still you are in service of the film and the vision of the film, the vision of the director, you know? And right now I'm in a place where I still want to be in service to my own vision, that's not kind of based on anything else other than what I'm going through in my life. I think there will come a point where I want to compose for movies again. And even now, I'm open to it if a script just, like, excites me like nothing else, and I'm just like, oh, I have to do this. If that happens, then I'm open to it, though I haven't really made myself super open to it. Like, I haven't talked about this that much. I think like 5 years from now is when I'll, like, super dive into my composing bag for films. I think between now and then, I want to release a few more albums. I want to tour a bit more, and I want to just, you know, do a few more things creatively, and then kind of land in that space where I was like, okay, I can give myself to a movie now.
Until then, we are completely looking forward to it, Amma.
Thank you.
So, konjam pinnadi polam. April 2024, we were talking about Coachella, and you were the first South Indian to go there and perform there. In the representation, நீங்க எப்படி பார்க்கறீங்க? Such a big opportunity at that time, and
Sure. I think I understand the magnitude, I guess, of the responsibility. But I try to make sure I forget it too. Because when you're
Okay.
on stage, you don't want to be thinking about like, oh, I'm the first South Indian to do this, or like you're not. You just want to be like, my job when I'm on stage is to express and uh, be fully tapped into the musical moments that are happening and really not thinking about anything. What I realize is when I'm performing, if I have any kind of self judgment of any sort, either congratulatory or like more negative judgment, either way, the flow of the show completely falls over. It's
Okay.
like you're on this tightrope of and balancing the energy of the stage, the momentum, the shifts in the energy, and you're really holding the audience's hand through this whole experience. So I say that to say like I wasn't or I haven't thought about that fact. The good thing was when I did Coachella is broken up into 2 weekends. When I did the first weekend, I wasn't aware that I was the first South Indian to perform. Someone actually
Okay.
told me this in an interview on the Wednesday after. So
Okay.
I'm really glad because I think like already you go to first weekend and there's not pressure, but there is a lot of chaos. There's so many things happening, and it took a lot of discipline just to like stay focused and not get pulled this way and that. And then someone told me the Wednesday after before the second weekend, and I was, yeah, I think I'm honored by the responsibility. I think my career and the way it's progressed has put me in this position to really be a torchbearer of where I come from and to kind of like be one of the first people to knock down some of these doors. And I'm very proud of that. And I don't take the responsibility lightly. But at the same time, I don't buy into my own hype too much either. Because, like, what's the
Okay.
point of that? All I want to be able to do is just make music every day, keep like pushing my own personal boundaries and being super honest in the process. And I think as long as I do that, the byproduct will be some of these doors being knocked down. So I try not to think about all the
The
external stuff too much.
results.
Yeah, because like what I've realized is anytime I do kind of like think about results, it's like putting the cart before the horse. And and normally when I've thought about the results or try to predict whether a song is going to be a hit or like I wish this is a hit or this is going to be a hit or whatever, it doesn't end up happening. When I'm like hands off with that part of it and just giving myself fully to the moment, that's when the magic really really happens, and that's what feels most gratifying as well.
அப்படி ஏதாவது சர்ப்ரைஸ் இருந்ததா லைக் யூ தாட் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சாங் சத்தியமா போகுமா லைக் போகுமான்றதை விட யூ ஜஸ்ட் சாங் அண்ட் யூ ஜஸ்ட் லெஃப்ட் இட் அதுக்கப்புறம் யோசிக்கவே இல்லை and then அது செம ஹிட் ஆச்சு ஆர் ஆன் த கான்ட்ரரி வைஸ் வர்ஸ் ஆல்சோ நடந்திருக்கா?
Not contrary pati pesla because I don't want to like downplay any of the songs, but I will talk. I think most of the songs that I've had that have like really done well or like been super hits, in the moment I haven't. I forced myself not to think about like I wonder if this will do well. Madurai is a great example. I actually went into that recording not feeling like recording at all that
Oh,
day.
really?
I was having like a shitty day, and I was like, I don't really feel like going to the studio. And obviously I went, and I almost feel like that reluctance or like that kind of like not wanting to be singing in that moment. Once I got in, and the energy that was created by Shiva, by Gautam Menon sir, by Tamare ma'am, like everyone in that studio, they were just like sometimes you can just feel a certain like something in the air,
Spark.
and that you felt that way when you walked in, and then you go and you start recording, and again sometimes like my voice, like all the things like come together in the perfect way, and that was definitely one such moment. But while we were recording, again, I did not think like, oh, this is going to be a mega hit, this is going to like all I wanted to do. It's the same like when I'm making music. This happens often when I'm writing a song and I record like my first rough vocal or whatever. I do not think like, is this good, is it bad or any. I just do the thing,
Okay.
and then there's time to judge it afterwards. But in the same way, when I recorded that song, I just was there. I did the thing. I made sure that I was having a really good time doing it. It was so much fun. And then afterwards, like, I forget about it. And that's actually the kind of one of the beauties of being a playback singer.
Yes.
Is like your commitment to the piece is for that, let's say 4 to 8 hours or whatever that you're in the studio. And then after it, you don't have to think about it at all. It's not your responsibility. Someone else is going to mix it. They're going to get it synced up to the visual. There's a whole team of people that have to do that. But my job is basically done at that point. So I forgot about it. And then the song came out. and it did what it did. I think Talipogade, another example. Like I remember after recording that one, I didn't fully understand the composition because
Okay.
it is such a atypical composition where
Okay.
AR Sir made it so that like you go on this 2.5 minute journey. There's no hook, and then finally you get the hook like 2.5 minutes into the whole piece, which is like not how you normally do it. Normally, like they say for pop music, 30 seconds in you should get to the hook or whatever. And I mean, AR Sir's AR Sir. He can do whatever he wants, and he knows like that. This is the intentional journey he wants to take the listener on. But I remember after recording that, I still couldn't fully wrap my mind around like what the composition was, and then obviously that one came out and did what it did. So, and yes, there have been instances where I've been in the studio like, yes, this is gonna be, or going into the recording because I knew what film it was for and the star that it was for. I was like, I really want this one to be a mega success, and it's not done as well as maybe I would have
Right.
thought about. So now the goal always is like just don't judge anything. Just go in and give myself to the act of singing and creating and doing all that stuff. I think the same is true when I'm making my own music. When I made the Siddharth album, specifically Dear Sahana, we were in the studio just having fun, just like jamming with each other. I was in a new city for the first time. We made most of that album in Minneapolis. And I didn't think about anything. I just was having such a good time, and then the song came out and it had the impact that it had. So that's been the way I've tried to just kind of like lead myself into all creative kind of situations.
Very interesting thought process behind everything. இப்போ நீங்கள் இதை பற்றினா மறுவார்த்தை பற்றி சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தீங்க, and then a lot of different things. So அந்த டைமில் when you started out back in 2013, within like 3 years, all your songs were like bang, 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 bang hit. Like ஐயா இருக்கட்டும் 24, and then you had அடியே கடல் வந்தது, அப்புறம் அச்சம் என்பது மடவேடா. That was until that point you had like a really strong streak at that time. So என்ன song தொட்டாலும் it was like Midas touch. So அந்த டைம்ல நீங்க எப்படி what was happening at that time, and அந்த fame நீங்க எப்படி handle பண்ணீங்க?
Yeah, so Adiye came out in 2013 or 2012 or whatever. Yannode Nindal came out in 2015, and Matram Kadale came out in 2015 as well. And these 3 songs were all hits, but like I was not yet like a household name. People were still trying to like figure out my voice. It was still very new for the industry here. Then Talipogade came out, and that catapulted everything. And then after that, it was just like the Midas touch thing happened. I was still living in the U.S. At that time for the most part. I'd come to Chennai for summer for a couple months, and then Madurai season for Carnatic concerts. And after Talipogade came out, like later that year, I started doing like 6 months in Chennai, 6 months back in the States. So as like the fame was happening, as like the celebrity was all kind of rising or whatever, I was aware, and I'm sure my ego was really enjoying it, but I was more just like really enjoying for the first time in my life living in Chennai and like this being home instead of having the typical NRI kind of perspective of seeing the city and the country through the lens of my parents. For the first time, I was building my own ecosystem here, my own like social groups, and
Identity.
and for the first time, and through that whole process of building and understanding my identity here, I think for the first time, I truly like fully embraced the entirety of who I was. I think up until that point, there was a part of myself that felt super fragmented because most of the year was spent away from the city that I was born in, and then once I actually started planting my feet and developing my own roots in Chennai. So while this kind of like fame was rising, I was having a deeply like just like a profound personal evolution and really kind of growing into myself. And that's what I recall most when I think back on that like 2016 to 2019 time period. I don't really think about like the fame that much. And again, I enjoyed the fame a lot, especially when it first started happening. It like my ego is super well fed. And I think becoming famous was a goal I had when I was a kid. And then it happened. And I realized that it's great, and I really appreciate the attention, but there's also like a whole other side to that thing where you kind of lose ownership over your name, because like everyone can tweet about you. You know, like there's like the people that are saying your name are no longer the people that know you and your family and all that, but it becomes like public domain, and that's a really, really strange feeling. So you know, I got to grapple with all that all in real time, and also just like really become an adult for the first time in my life around those years. So it was like a real magical time. It was a magical time, very chaotic, and which is true with any points of like transformation and such. But real magical, and I think the music. Again, thinking back on those years, the music is what I really use as my time, like my timestamp to think back on certain phases of my life. Like I know where I was when, like Madurai came out. I remember I showed a friend that clip, and that was the first song that came out for me in films that felt like intrinsically Carnatic. And I remember the surprise in his face. I remember when Inkem Kavale came out for the first time, and that was like my first big Telugu like hit. And I was with my family in the States at the time, but I remember just looking at the numbers going crazy and be like, oh, this is about to be a new shift for me. And like that, there's different kind of points that felt super magical. And it's just a time of like incredible growth, I think, for me, both artistically, musically, and personally as well.
So nice. But was this Achaman Bade Madamiyada song supposed to come at that time? And the timeline நீங்க ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணி போயிட்டீங்களா? Because அந்த டைம்ல வந்து வர வேண்டி இருந்தா, பிகாஸ் ரீசெண்ட் இன்டர்வியூஸ் சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க அந்த டைம்ல வர வேண்டியது இல்லை, பட் வர வேண்டியதா வந்து நாங்க பண்ண வச்சோம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க.
No, so I had just come to Chennai for the December season. So we had recorded that like I want to say December of 2015. So I was already in town. And I recorded that near the beginning of December. And then they finished it like super quickly, and it came out the 1st of January. So I was already here.
Okay.
When we recorded that one.
Right. So அந்த டைம்ல வந்து என்னை நோக்கி பாயும் தோட்டா வந்தப்போ வந்து there was this quirky little குட்டி campaign. இந்த மிஸ்டர் எக்ஸ்னு சொல்லிட்டு கம்போசர் யாருன்னு தெரியாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த ஒரு புது கேம்பெயின் ஒன்று ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. ரொம்ப டிஃப்ரெண்டா இருந்தது அந்த டைம்ல வந்து பண்ணி வச்சது. ஒரு புது ட்விட்டர் ஹேண்டில் எல்லாம் கிரியேட் பண்ணி. ஸோ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் வந்து நிறைய ரூமர்ஸ் வந்துருந்தது. ஏஆர் ரஹ்மானா இருக்கும், ஆர் பர்ஹாப்ஸ் யுவனா இருக்கும், ஹாரிஸ் ஆல் ஆஃப் தீஸ். அப்புறம் தி ஷிஃப்ட் கம்ப்ளீட்லி டுக் அப்பான் யூ. உங்க மேல வந்துட்டு மேபி சிச்சுராம கூட பண்ணிருக்கலாம் கம்போசிங் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. ஸோ அந்த டைம்ல நீங்க இந்த ரூமர்ஸ் நீங்க பாத்தீங்களா? எப்படி இருந்தது அந்த டைம்?
I saw all of it. I mean, I was tickled by all of it. I think Gautam is just like a marketing genius when it comes to that stuff. Like, it was so cool to see how he just built that hype up. And I think even then, that was before. I don't know if it was before the full song was released, and it was just after the teaser, or it was after the full song. I don't quite remember. But yeah, I was definitely tapped into all the comments and what was going on, and it was just fun because I obviously knew who the composer was, and we know behind the scenes what's going on. But it was also important for me not to like be in social settings and tell anyone, so I had to be disciplined about it. But that stuff was so much fun. I think like again, for someone who like I grew up in the States, I grew up in the suburbs of California. My grandfather was a Carnatic musician, and he was like an arranger and a composer for films as well, a real genius musician. So like from afar, I knew that this world existed, you know, but until I was really embedded in it, and I became like immersed in the world and a real fixture in Indian cinema, like until that point happened, I didn't have an understanding of how all of it worked and all. So it was really like a magical kind of time, because I was also learning in real time, like, you know, how all this moves, and it was just a real magical time. And I think that song coming out and that little challenge where like the Mr. X thing is, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah, when it came out, I think it was really worth it. And
sure.
Romba summer hit achus. Everywhere that song was. So I think 2016-19 and the period la vandu you had like a brilliant peak in your career. So many songs, multiple languages, so much of fame. You were just growing leaps and bounds. Ella cornerly poitu irundinga, and then something happened. I don't know. I mean, did your priorities change after that? What happened exactly? So
I think
you're still there, of course. Your music is amazing. It's still great, but I feel like something in you shifted.
For sure. I mean, the pandemic happened, and I think for everyone, that was just a point of just like deep introspection and having to reflect. And I remember like that time being 2019 was like the busiest year of my life.
Sure.
In terms of like so many songs. I was composing for Vanam Kottatum, obviously still performing. We were doing like a bunch of shows, and I was like constantly on the move. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like running on a tank that was near empty. And I was starting to do a lot of the same stuff too, where I felt like, yeah, I really enjoyed the acclaim and the attention. But for me, music has always first and foremost been like my responsibility is to like the inner creative voice before anything else, before money, before fame, before like, you know, doing anything for anyone else. There is like an inner voice that's always there that's saying, do this now, like go this way. Sometimes I choose to listen to it, other times I try to dim it, but it's always there. And I think the pandemic, I went back, I was in Chennai when the pandemic first hit. Me and my dad went back to the US to lock down with my mom over there. And it was just silence. You know, like there was nothing to do. And this is true for the whole world. And that feeling was just like a profound feeling of the fact that for the first time, at least in our lifetimes, there was this event that had blanketed the whole globe. And yeah, I mean, like, I was supposed to do a whole world tour in 2020, and like that obviously didn't happen. So I'd wake up and just stare at the ceiling for like 20 minutes every morning and be like, what am I doing?
Correct.
You know? And that slowly led me back to falling in love with just practicing for the sake of practicing, because again, we didn't know if we were going to perform again.
Correct.
So I fell back in love with Carnatic music just because I wanted to sit down and just sing. I started composing again, which I hadn't done like very frequently. Entropy came out in 2018, but that was more of like an outlier than something I was doing normally. I kind of, you know, so during that time, I think I got back in touch with what I think my purpose is as a musician, and I realized that like, yes, I love singing for movies, and the success has been super great, and I love being able to have a ton of hits keep coming out, but I need to push myself again.
Correct.
And you know, there's only so many hours in the day, so if you need to push yourself and obsess over something that is different than what like most of your time has been, then obviously there's going to be a bit of a compromise on that. And I made it very intentionally where I decided I'm going to dive back into kind of like making my own music, you know, and really giving myself to that time. And in the beginning of the pandemic, that was a purely cathartic kind of thing. I was doing it for myself because I needed to make music just to stay sane and make sense of what was going on. And then as the pandemic kind of eased up, I met a producer from Minneapolis. I connected with this guy Justin Vernon, who's part of this band Bon Iver that I've loved since I was in college, and we started making Siddharth. And I think making that album was the shift, where I was like, oh, I can make this whole universe and make this, and I have this perspective within myself that I have to kind of like, I need to do justice to the fact that it's there, and it has to be shared with the world, because I realized that my perspective and the position that I've been put in can really kind of have an impact, what we were talking about before, but like knocking those doors down. And so I just gave myself to making that album, which obviously meant spending less time in India. The album came out. We did the NPR Tiny Desk, which really traveled the world and had a deep impact. Did Coachella, all these things. And very naturally, by way of just following my creative compass, my career had a point of inflection in a different way than what it had been before. And like you said, like Srivalli came out after that, Nisingam Dan, there's various songs, you know, and that have been like cultural fixtures and like points of inflection here. But I also kind of consciously decided I'm not going to sing 50 songs in a year or something like that. Maybe I'll sing 5 to 10 instead, and allow myself the time to do these other things. And I think that is kind of like where I'm at now, where I'm still singing for films. I'm doing less, but I like the fact that the few songs that I'm singing are still doing the thing, you know what I mean? And then, but there's also, I'm like working on 2 albums right now that I'm going to be finishing soon. I'm diving into the jazz space a lot and collaborating with some legends from the US. And then Carnatic music has also taken the front seat. So I'm very happy with where I'm at right now, because I've enjoyed a very illustrious career for now 13 years with a ton of hits that have been at the top of the charts. But now I can kind of balance these different worlds and immerse myself in the different pursuits. And I think really do justice to all of them and trailblaze a path that I hope and believe will be one that others that are younger than me can also follow if they wish to be shapeshifters.
கிரேட் கிரேட். இப்போ கொஞ்சம் இன்னும் சில பெர்ஸ்பெக்டிவ்ஸ் நம்ம உள்ள போவோம். இப்போ மியூசிக் இண்டஸ்ட்ரி பார்த்தோம், இப்போ சினிமா இண்டஸ்ட்ரி பார்த்தோம்னா ஒரு காலத்தில் வந்து பாட்டுக்காகவே படம் நிறைய ஓடிச்சு. ஆனா வந்து இப்போ என்னடானா சாங்ஸ் வந்து மாண்டாஜஸா வருது, இல்ல தே ரிலீஸ் செப்பரேட்லி. ஸோ இந்த ஷிஃப்ட் எப்படி நீங்க பாக்குறீங்க?
Yeah, I think it's just natural evolution of an industry. I think that also actually has to do with where I'm at with my position in films right now. Whereas like 20 when I came in up until like pandemic, songs were a major driving force in the film.
Correct.
Even a little bit into like that 2021, but that has obviously like decreased over the years naturally by way of like an industry and an art form going through its life cycle. I think it's fine. I don't think we get to control these things. I think there's the way creativity progresses, the way the role of certain aspect of a film, in this case music, evolves, that is like beyond kind of anyone's control. It's going to naturally kind of go through this life cycle, and I think a lot of the factors that play into this are the digital space, social media, what people have the attention span for. And also on a more positive note, the fact that along with films kind of going through its life cycle, we're in the nascent stages of Indian original music really kind of becoming a real factor in the country's musical zeitgeist and what people are listening to. We see more and more of independent artists putting out music that is really kind of enjoying true success and is no longer relegated to the underground or like obscurity. You know what I mean? So I think I won't say like I'm in favor or against the role of music in films right now or how it's kind of progressed. I think it is what it is. I think a very positive byproduct of that is the fact that we're going to have more music coming out from artists independently, and I think it's about damn time that we have this multitude of perspectives that gets to make its way into the mainstream. And I'm excited. I think I've been like at the forefront of that thing for a little while now, and to see it really kind of taking shape and turning into what it's turning into is pretty great.
ஏன்னா அட் த சேம் டைம் உங்களோட சில பாட்டுக்கெல்லாம் இன்னும் வெளில வராமலே இருக்கு. லைக் சிவசுந்தரம்ல பாட்டு பாடினீங்க, பிசாசு 2ல பாட்டு பாடினீங்க, அதெல்லாமே இன்னும் வெளியில வராம யூ ஃபீல் சம் சார்ட் ஆஃப் சேட்னஸ், இன்னும் வெளில வரலையே, நம்ம நல்லா பாடிருந்தோமே, ஒரு சம்திங் லைக் தட், அந்த ஃபீலிங் ஏதோ இருக்கா?
Not so much. I think like again like it's beyond my control. If I could do something about it, then maybe I'd feel away. Okay. But I've just like learned to not like invest emotions into things I don't have control over, because what's the point?
Makes sense.
And it took me a while to get to that point to have that kind of discipline. But now, no, I don't think about it at all. I think, there's so many forces at play. You don't know why or how or when. But I really love singing those songs, especially the song in Pisasa 2, working with Mishkin Saran. That was super fun. You know, and just like that interaction with him, he's just like bustling with energy and ideas, and he's so brilliant.
Encyclopedia, in fact.
He's truly and a brilliant musician too, with a real kind of understanding and perspective on it. So I loved the experiences of it, and again, like I said, my gift or the gift is the actual process. Everything after it is bonus. So I don't really harbor any resentment or feelings toward those things. Yeah.
நீங்க independent artist பத்தி பேசியிருந்தீங்க. Who's your favorite currently at this point in?
I like Asal a lot.
Okay.
I like there's an Elam Thammer rapper / singer, I think lives in Canada, Nabs 47. I really like her stuff. What else? There's a whole bunch, but those are the two that first kind of like come to mind. I really dig what they've been doing. And there's a lot. There's Vengayo just put out a really cool track maybe a month ago or so. His stuff's Paldaba. There's a lot of good stuff.
And most of them are Tamilians. It's so nice to hear.
For the most part, that's what I listen to. I mean, like Divine's a good friend of mine. I love what he does. But I think Tamil music is having a moment right now. And I'm so excited to see how it kind of... Again, I think like music that's rooted here, because there's so many different kinds of roots, from like folk music to Carnatic music to whatever. But music that's rooted here in southern India, specifically Tamil Nadu, I think there's like a ton of potential for that to really traverse the globe. Dabsy's another artist I really like, who's Malayalam. Ariv is awesome. Yeah. I mean, he's been awesome for a while. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Great. Yeah. So இது வரைக்கும் பேசினதை பொறுத்து பார்த்தா இப்போ வந்து ஸோ அப்பார்ட் ஃப்ரம் யோர் சினிமா இது பற்றி there's a lot of these devotional songs that you sing. இப்போ சிவனாரா இருக்கட்டும், முத்துசாமி தீட்சிதரோட அந்த பாட்டு நீங்கள் ஒரு போர்ஷனில் நீங்கள் பாடினீங்க. யூனோ எந்த கவி பாடினாலும் அந்த பாட்டு இருக்கு. ஸோ தெர் ஆர் தீஸ் மெனி மூமெண்ட்ஸ். நீங்கள் வந்து ஒரு முருகர் கோயிலில் உட்காந்து யூ ஜஸ்ட் என்டர் இன் டு அ ட்ரான்ஸ். எங்கேயோ உங்களை மறந்து எங்கேயோ பாடுறீங்க. there was this recent viral clip that somebody posted. நீங்க ஒரு கான்சர்ட்ல உட்காந்து பாடிட்டு இருக்கீங்க, எல்லாரும் ஹனுமான் சாலிசா பாடிட்டு இருந்தாங்க நீங்க பாடும்போது, and you were so moved by it. Such good moments that you've had. So how does this devotion ground you?
It just reminds me that it's not about me, you know, and that like that though I am like the vessel in the moment that is like the music is moving through, I'm just like an individual in this whole thing, and that there is like far greater forces, profound, like God really is just like moving through the world with grace, you know. And that's what those moments do. That specific moment was on Hanumat Jayanti last year. I was performing at Tanjaneya Temple in Nanganallur, and yeah, I mean, like people were singing along. I just started crying. I couldn't hold it back. I don't even, when those moments happen, it's like you don't know. It just hits you, and it's so humbling, because I think like knowing that specifically was humbling, because like listening to all those voices singing together is what did it to me, where it just like it shook something within my spirit. And yeah, just knowing you're one amongst many, and maybe there's a gift for sure, and I'm aware and cognizant of the gift that I have, but again, not having, I don't feel like I deserve credit for the gift. I deserve credit for honing it, but like I was given this thing, you know. So I think that's why, and how it grounds me, is just a reminder that I'm a speck, and I'm also everything at the same time. But like, you know, it's like against the universe and the infinite nature of music and sound, I'm just like one piece in the whole puzzle. And I think that's the most humbling thing, and there's a lot of solace that one feels when being reminded of that. And that's what those moments are. And I think really live for that stuff, because yeah, when you lose yourself, I can't put it in words what that exact kind of feeling is, but there's something about it that's just so profound. And those moments have always been like points on a map that are leading me somewhere. And I don't know where exactly that is. I know that the constant search is for some kind of universal truth, and those points feel like it guides me towards that place.
டிவோஷன் இருந்தால் தான் கர்நாடிக் மியூசிக்கே பாட முடியும், அதை ஹோன் பண்ண முடியும், அதை வெளியில் கொண்டு வர முடியும்னு சொல்லிட்டு நிறைய பேர் சொல்லிக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க. இதை எப்படி நீங்கள் பார்க்குறீங்க?
I can't speak for anyone else. I think for me, like it's inherently just like grounded in devotion and like and surrender. And not even Carnatic. I think any music, that's the case. I think music is just like this mysterious gift that we've been given and has developed over centuries. And sound is so mysterious because you can't see it. It's not tangible. You can obviously hear it, but it does something to us. And I think when it's intentioned the right way, and you approach it with a sense of humility and devotion and surrender, what it can do to people is like, I've seen it happen. It's profound. It's deep. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's Carnatic music, film music, my original stuff, experimental stuff, whatever, what have you. Like that surrender and that feeling of devotion and giving myself to it in that way is a consistent through line. So I don't think it's like only a Carnatic music thing. I think it's just like, to me, it's music in general is this sacred space that requires that surrender for sure.
Great. Your upcoming concerts coming. So congratulations on that. It's been coming after quite some time நினைக்கிறேன். And captionல வந்து Sid Sriram is coming home அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு போட்டிருந்தாங்க. So first of all, why was that? And second of all, யூஸ்வலாக உங்களோட ஒரு கான்சர்ட்ஸில் வந்து ஒரு செட் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் or something, say hit songs, then your compositions, your songs, அந்த மாதிரி different. So இதுக்கான approach different-ஆ இருக்கா?
Sure. So first, like this being a homecoming felt very apt, because it just felt like the right time. I don't think there was like a ton of logic that went into it, or there's not like this huge kind of like explanation, but it felt like the right time to look back on my journey and look where I started and look where I'm at right now and just celebrate that. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate it than with the people who have made this possible, which are like the fans in these cities. we're going to be in Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad, maybe a couple other cities. But yeah, it's going to feel like a true homecoming because it's going to be getting to share in this music, in these songs that really have defined my career with the people who have supported me from day one. A lot of the people that are going to be coming, let's say, to the Chennai show, were folks that came to like our very first like public show ever was at Lady Andal back in like I want to say August of 2016 or something like that. And those folks that came to that show, a lot of them have come to every show periodically since then. So, in a very literal way, it's going to be celebrating with the people who have been there from day one. Me and my band, a lot of the guys have been playing together for now 10 years. So I think that's why it feels like a homecoming, because it felt like the right time just to take stock of where I'm at, celebrate it, enjoy it, and also in celebration of that, it's also a way to then go forward into this next phase of the journey. I think our shows, the kind of core anchor points for them is the fact that it's me and my band. It's like 6 of us for like 3 hours on stage. Just it's all about the music. There's not much by way of extra frills and any other additions. It's just 3 hours nonstop of just like hit after hit, just like the songs. The visuals are really special. The lights are special. The sound is immaculate. But it's really about the music. And it's about the rawness that comes from honestly kind of just like performing these songs. I think in terms of the structure of the show, I like to break my shows up into about like 4 or 5 sections.
Okay.
And in kind of like structuring in that way, there's like this real arc emotionally and dynamically that we build that allows the show to feel not like this very obvious in-your-face journey, but subtly I'm able to take the audience along on a journey with me. So what's nice is I've had a lot of like big songs in my career. So there's about like the set will be about like 40 to 45 pieces, primarily consisting of my big film songs that I've had interspersed within that kind of context of the film hits. There will be reinterpretations of songs that I loved growing up. One that we always love doing is Puduvellai Malai from Roja. We like doing Nila Kaigirathu a lot. But
that's your favorite song, Puduvellai Malai.
Yeah, I love that song. And I love the way we do it because we just like give our own spin to it. And there's others that we kind of like remix and do interesting kind of reimaginations of. And then I also perform a few of my original pieces just to kind of really allow the audience into that part of my world as well. So that's what it's going to be. And like I said, it's really about sharing. I feel like when it's about the music and when it's raw, and I mean like our shows, there's no holds barred, there's no inhibitions. We're jumping around on stage, having the time of our lives. We're tapping into some real emotions and sharing in that with the audience, and it turns into this conversation between us. So the whole space feels like it's buzzing by the end of it. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's going to be about. And I can't wait. I can't wait to look out and see people's eyes. And there's always like these big smiles. And again, like when we're going crazy on stage and don't care about what we look like or whatever, but just doing it because the music is moving us in that way, I see the same happening to people screaming, dancing, just like not caring. And there's no judgment at all. It's just about like the pure energy that comes with enjoying and loving music and sharing in real, true love, So that's going to be kind of like the cornerstone for all the shows of the tour.
Super.
Yeah,
but at the same time, when we're talking about your concert, we can't also avoid not talking about the concert culture in general. எப்படி இப்போ வந்து கான்சர்ட்ஸ் பயங்கரமா சேஞ்ச் ஆயிருக்கு. முன்னாடிலாம் வந்து இந்த கிராஸ் கல்ச்சரல் எக்ஸ்சேஞ்சஸ்லாம் ரொம்ப இருக்காது. இப்போ வந்து இங்க இருக்கிற ஆர்டிஸ்ட் நிறைய அப்ராட்ல போய் பெர்ஃபார்ம் பண்றாங்க. நிறைய வேர்ல்ட் டூர்ஸ் நடக்குது. முன்ன விட like ரொம்ப நிறைய வேர்ல்ட் டூர்ஸ் நடக்குது. At the same time, Coldplay is coming here. We have a lot of other artists who are coming here to perform. Our infrastructure is getting better. And there's another concert culture that's going on for say Taylor Swift albums வந்து big screenல உட்கார்ந்து பார்த்து அத ஒரு கான்சர்ட்டா எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் பண்றாங்க. So இந்த cross cultural exchangesலாம் நீங்க எப்படி பாக்குறீங்க இந்த கான்சர்ட் கல்ச்சர் மாறுறது?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think like any time that there's conversations between different cultures and like there's like this kind of like interaction between what's happening in the East and the West, or India and the US, or the West in general, and they start to be in conversation with each other. I think what is bound to happen is new ideas start to spark up, because with new conversations and new perspectives meeting one another, that's the inevitable next step. And I think that's really exciting. I think inevitable is probably the word. It was bound to happen at some point, and I'm glad that it's happening now. I think there is a responsibility on artists to make sure that, like, that we are giving our unique perspective, that there's not like a homogenization happening with shows, which I don't think is happening. I think everyone is very much doing their own thing and putting forth their own perspective. So I think it's exciting. And yeah, that's pretty simply put, I think it's exciting.
Would you say that about the same இப்போ நீங்க it's bound to happen அப்படின்னு சொல்றீங்கல்ல, would you say that about the same with AI's use in music? Because ஏன்னா வந்து AI use வந்து இப்போ ரொம்ப rampant-ஆ இருக்கு, நிறைய பேர் யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. Even the top leading composers and singers are openly saying that they're using AI. And say for instance Rahman recently சொன்னாங்க அவங்களோட பாட்டை வந்து பம்பா பாக்கியா அவங்களோட சாங்ஸ்லாம் வந்து அவங்களோட வாய்ஸ் திரும்பி கொண்டு வந்து லால் சலாம்லாம் நிறைய யூஸ் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்க. Anirudh recently told that he was using ChatGPT and things like that. So as a creator நீங்க இதை எப்படி பாக்குறீங்க?
I also think that's also, like, any technological advancement is inevitable. It's bound to happen. And again, these are, we don't really have the control over whether or how these things are happening. I think for me, I have nothing against AI. I think if it's used as a tool, and not as a crutch, cool. Personally, I haven't used it yet.
Okay.
I have friends that have, and I support what they do for sure, and I think it's cool. In the context of how I create with the technology and my process that I have in place, I feel like I've only still just like scratched the surface of what I can do with that, and I'm interested in kind of going all the way with that before introducing another kind of dimension of technology into my process. So I don't have much interest in tapping into that world right now. There's a lot more I still want to do, can do, and I think I should do with what I have available to me. Not even available, but how I've been creating. There's a lot more that I need to still dig into. So I haven't really tapped in with AI yet, and I don't see myself doing it for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now very important part of the conversation is so உங்களோட சாங் வந்து இப்போ பயங்கரமா கிரிக்கெட் கல்ச்சர்ல ஹிட் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் வந்து தோனிக்கு நிறைய நீ சிங்கம் தான் போட ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. எல்லா டிஜேஸும் அதை முதல்ல யூஸ் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. அப்புறமா வந்து விராட் கோலி செட் தட் இட் வாஸ் ஹிஸ் ஃபேவரட் சாங், அண்ட் தென் அவருக்கு நிறைய யூஸ் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. பட் ஆஸ் அ சிங்கரா நீங்க பாடும்போது ஒரு ட்ரிபியூட்க்கு ஸோ இது ஒரு ட்ரிபியூட்டா யோசிச்சிருப்பீங்க ஆர் சம்திங் லைக், ஆமா இது திஸ் இஸ் த ஒரிஜினல் ஓனர் ஆஃப் நீ சிங்கம் தான், நீங்க ஆக்சுவலி யாருக்கு ட்ரிபியூட்டா கொடுப்பீங்க?
I think AR sir is like the owner of the song because he made it. You know what I mean? And like I like that song doesn't exist without him. But it's so cool to see the way that a song like that gets embraced in these different contexts and used in these different ways. I think sports is awesome. I love sports, and I think the way the role that sports has in society is super important and really exciting. So yeah, I remember when it first became like the theme song for Dhoni. That was really cool, and I was in the US at the time. I was getting tagged left and right in tons of videos. And then as soon as the Virat interview went live, again tagged in so many videos, getting sent a ton of messages. I think it's awesome. I think it's cool that these two individuals that I deeply respect, that this song that I love so deeply is associated with them is really great. And I love that song. I think from the moment I first heard like the brief, and then when I recorded it, it was just something that was magical about the composition. And Vivek's lyrics are so powerful for that piece. So yeah, I think I'm grateful. It's anytime something like that happens and you see someone celebrating a piece that you'd given your voice to, it's always a moment of gratitude. And performing that one live every time, and like you literally feel like the lion, and he just like comes out and is like,
நீங்க யாருக்கு அத ட்ரிபியூட்டா கொடுப்பீங்க?
AR sir, like he's like my hero, and he's been my hero since I was young. And then to get to work with him and get to know him, and him becoming a mentor, and you know, it's been such a beautifully surreal journey in that way. And yeah, I think everything that song represents and like the power of it, I associate it with him.
Super. Yeah. Now towards the last question, you're also a big part of pop culture. I don't know எவ்வளோ தெரியும்னு உங்களுக்கு தெரியல, obviously நிறைய நீங்க பார்த்துருப்பீங்க. பட் முன்னாடிலாம் வந்து ஒரு வாய்ஸ் வச்சு பாட ஆரம்பிச்சா நீ பெரிய எஸ்பிபின்னு நினைக்கிறியா அப்படின்னு மாதிரி கேட்பாங்க. இப்போ என்னன்னா வந்து ஒரு மாதிரி ஹையர் டோன்ல பாட ஆரம்பிச்சு கொஞ்சம் கர்நாடிக் யூஸ் பண்ணினா நீங்க என்ன பெரிய சித் ஸ்ரீராம் நினைப்பா அப்படின்ற மாதிரி பேசுவாங்க. ஐ திங்க் இன் ஒன் ஆஃப் யுவர் வீடியோஸ் ஆல்சோ somebody commented bro thinks he's Sid அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு.
That's a whole thing right now. I started with one video and that one comment went crazy. I responded to the comment, went crazy. Now every video I post up, there's at least 5 comments where it says, "Bro thinks he's Sid." Bro, it's a whole thing. I'm tickled by it. I'm definitely not Gen Z, so like I look at it like, at first I was like, what's going on? I was genuinely kind of confused. Like, no, I'm definitely me. I promise you. And then I realized it was sarcasm, and then it's become its own. It's just taken on a life of its own. I'm here for all of it, man. I think it's like, it's really funny. You know, before I said that, like when I first became famous and I realized that I don't own my name anymore, it's like public domain. This is the fun part about it. It's like when you get to like start to, one, not take yourself too seriously, and two, just like be in interaction with it and get super meta with it. It's so much fun. Like I love that. I love like messing with people a little bit, just like commenting back when they don't expect it. I'm a fan of memes sometimes, so I'll be posting memes, and I think people think I'm generally pretty serious, and that's how I've appeared in my social media for the most part. That I'm like, hey, like thinking about life all the time or whatever. But like, no, I'm like, you know, I like to have fun, and the memes has been a nice way just to let like. People get surprised though. The fans are like, "Are you sure this is you? Someone hacked your account?" Like, no, this is what me and my friends are talking about most of the time. So I'm here for it. I enjoy it. I think also like it's just a sign of impact, you know, when you become a fixture in pop culture and like the zeitgeist of it also. I think it's funny.
There's also the other side to it, of course. நீங்க சோல் வீடியோ கடையில் all love no hate only அப்படின்ற மாதிரி போட்டிருந்தீங்க. So there are a lot of other side to it as well. நிறைய பேர் விமர்சனங்களும் இருக்கு, நிறைய ரிவ்யூஸும் இருக்கு, கிரிட்டிசிசமும் இருக்கு. இதை நீங்க எப்படி பாக்குறீங்க?
It's a part of the game. I think I've gotten very, very good at being able to detect when critique is coming from a place of like actual constructive criticism and love, and like the intention is to communicate something that's meaningful, versus when it's just like an anonymous internet troll. And you know, just knowing how to discern between the two different things, and so I kind of give value to the stuff that feels like it's well intentioned, and the stuff that's not, I just let it just slide right off. Also, I spend like far less time now on the internet than I did like, let's say 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm less aware of what's going on, or like what people are saying now than I was before, and I like that, like I have that relationship with it. But yeah, I think like by way of the fact that the internet has just like democratized all kinds of communication and anyone can have an opinion on everything, naturally there's going to be a whole kind of spectrum of opinions on everything, and I don't take most of it to heart. I think I have a really strong, honest unit around me that keeps it super real with me, so I get my feedback from them, and I always know if it's from them, it's coming from a place of really caring. And knowing who I am. So I don't pay attention to most of the other stuff.
Super. Thank you so much என்கூட இவ்வளவு நேரம் பேசினதுக்கு.
Thank you.
And before we end the conversation, இப்போ நான் உங்களை பாட வைக்கலைன்னா என்ன எல்லாரும் அடிப்பாங்க. So please வழித்துணையிலேருந்து ஒரு few lines and சிவனார்லேருந்து ஒரு few lines, just to balance it up.
வானம் பார்த்து கிடந்தேனே, மழையாய் வந்து விழுந்தாயே, வழித்துணையே வழித்துணையே, வண்ணம் சூழ்ந்த இடமெல்லாம் வா வா ஓடி திருவோம் வா, என் துணையே நீயே. That was super cool. And what was that the song?
Sivanar.
Oh, cool. சிவனார் மனம் குளிர உபதேச மந்திரமிரு செவி மீதிலும் பகர்சை குருநாதா, சிவகாம சுந்தரி தன் வரபால கந்தானின் செயலே விரும்பி உளம் நினையாமல், அவமாயை கொண்டுலகில் விருதா அலைந்துழலும் அடியேனை அஞ்சல் என வரவேணும், அறிவாகமும் பெருக இடரானதும் தொலைய அருஞான இன்பம் அது புரிவாயே. Thank you.